Hello and welcome to Family Focus. I'm Christina O'Reilly, your host with Family Service Association of Fall River. We are thrilled to present this program to you every month as a resource to strengthen individuals and families throughout the southeastern Massachusetts area. And we are brought to you on more than a dozen broadcast partner stations, and we thank them for that. This and other episodes are also always available on our YouTube channel, FSA Fall River. With me today is Angela Braz, Training Coordinator for Family Service Association's Continuous Quality Improvement Office. That's a mouthful. Angie, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you, Christina. I'm very excited to be here.
Great. So, as I mentioned at the outset, we love to use this program as a vehicle to help people in our communities tackle various issues in healthy ways that emphasize wellness, both physical and mental. We try to bring our viewers guests that will provide some insight, maybe some resources and useful tips for dealing with all of life's stuff, large and small. And so today we're going to talk a bit heading into the new year about goal setting and setting yourself up for success. With the turning of a new year, we know that we all tend to go through the same drills. Set a resolution, maybe set out to adopt some new good habits, some workout resolutions, do a dry January, join a gym. And for some people, these resolutions stick, and for others, they just sort of peter out. But I think it's safe to say we've all had at least a few tries that just kind of didn't quite gel for us. So Angie is here today in her role, not just as training coordinator for FSA, but as a member of our wellness committee and with a really rich background in wellness and well-being herself. So Angie, can you start us off telling a little bit about your background and why you are our guest for today in this topic?
Absolutely. So I have a degree in health education. My passion is health and well-being. I used to work for Partners for a Healthier Community, and we did worksite wellness in the community. For about 7 years, I was the worksite wellness director for the South Coast Worksite Wellness Collaborative, where we brought in small to medium-sized businesses and we help them focus on their own health and wellness goals at their work sites. That being said, wellness is just my wheelhouse. That's my passion. Just really connecting people with resources so that they can better make health choices and decisions, whether for their employees, which is their most important piece to their puzzle at work, right? And then also based on if they're working through any of their own personal goals. So,
great. So, a little bit of background here. In planning for today's show, I found some interesting background on New Year's resolutions and their origins, and apparently they date back about 4,000 years, best that folks can ascertain. The Babylonians would make promises at the beginning of a new planting season, which was their new year. And they believed that if they made these promises to the gods and followed through on them, that they would be looked upon favorably for their harvest season. Different iterations of that came throughout history. So the Roman civilization at the time of Caesar, when the calendar turned to a January start of the new year, began to offer sacrifices and promise good behaviors to the god Janus. And for similar reasons, figuring that if they made these commitments and honored them, that they would be looked upon favorably by their gods. And so over different time, other religious practices spun off of that, but these days it's become a largely secular activity. I think most of us, don't tie it to a particular religion, but rather just self-improvement, and somehow New Year, New You seems to resonate with people. So let's dig into a little bit about those New Year's resolutions. Is this always necessarily the best time or the best way to set about tackling these big goals like fitness or time management or other things?
That's a great question. I would tell you it tends to be not as achievable when we plan it for the beginning of the year. But I would like to think of it instead of a New Year's resolution, but think of it as like just an attainable goal and what you're going to set for yourself around a timely goal for your own personal development. And those goals, like you said, around fitness and time management, they can range from anything from financial wellness or your own personal wellness around physical activity, or even healthy eating. And what I like to think about when I think about creating these goals is creating something that I want, not what society is telling me to do, right? Most often we do look at New Year's resolutions as a Western tradition. Some Eastern countries do practice it, but it's really this unnecessary pressure that we put on ourselves. And in order to prepare efficiently and to attain that goal, you really want to focus on something that is near and dear to your heart, but also that is specific to what you need. And the example I give would be maybe around time management. Maybe you hope to use your time more wisely in the future, and what would that mean for you? Okay, and so you decide, okay, I'm going to pick a podcast I can listen to that's going to help me better increase my skill set around time management, and I'm going to listen to it, twice a week, and I'm going to be able to achieve this goal within 6 months. Something that is set in stone that you can write down in your calendar is very, very important too, because it keeps you kind of accountable. But there's many different topics and many different goals that you can set for yourself throughout the whole year, not just during the new year.
Okay, great. So in your professional life here, you work with both organizational goals and individuals' professional goals. And so what kind of tips can you offer that translate, from those professional aspects to personalized goals? You touched on it a little bit. We hear the acronym sometimes of SMART goals. Can you talk a little bit about what that is? You touched on some of those things, but the acronym itself.
Yeah, so the acronym stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and then timely. And so it's a fancy acronym for really just writing down a goal that is going to best meet those specific topics. And so an example would be, I plan to quit smoking by the end of the year, or within 3 to 6 months. Being able to identify the behavior, because really what resolutions is it's a change in behavior. And to have behavior change requires a lot of discipline. And so you have to figure out what is achievable and what's realistic. And so say I want to quit smoking within the first 6 months of the year, and the way I'm going to do that is be able to reduce the amount of triggers in my daily life, or what have you. The other big thing with tobacco usage, or even just vaping in general, is really just picking a start date. A start date is so important because it really solidifies when you're going to quit smoking. Prior to the start of that quit date, you want to actually remove all triggers. So all of your lighters, all of your vaping materials, all of your anything that's going to remind you of cigarette smoking or vaping, you want to remove that from your day-to-day life, because again, it's a behavior, it's a routine, and so you want to break that up a bit. But also have things in place that will help you with those triggers. So if you know that something is a stressor for you around your routine, what would then be the other option instead of grabbing that cigarette? Are you going to go for a walk? Are you going to go phone a friend? An accountability partner is huge when it comes to behavior change. And that accountability partner can be a family friend, a family member, a personal friend, the person that's going to keep you accountable and help you with your goal setting. And being a training coordinator for FSA for over 5 years, we've been able to plan out certain trainings, right? And so the trainings that I have with the quarterly calendar keeps me on track. So setting those goals, setting those time limits, so important.
To build a little bit on the quit smoking part, aside from taking those materials out of your environment and trying to identify the stresses there's something about routine and smoking too, right? I know like a close personal friend had to stop smoking in the car because that was a routine, was get in the car and light up a cigarette. And so by forcing yourself to stand outside of your car rather than get in it, now you've at least removed the car as an environment that triggers that smoking, right?
That's right, absolutely. And most people, it is very challenging to quit smoking, and we know that, and research has shown us that it does reduce our stress level when we use nicotine and nicotine products. But being able to have that awareness on what your triggers are and having a plan set forth, you're more likely to succeed. Absolutely.
Great. So one thing that I've heard of sometimes is kind of rewarding yourself or your child for achieving a goal. Like if I stick with my commitment to go to the gym 3 times a week for X number of weeks, then I'll buy myself that jacket that I was looking at that I really wanted to get. Or, if my kids keep their rooms tidied up and they don't come in and drop all their bags and shoes right in front of the door for X period of time, then maybe I reward them with something. So let's talk a little bit about those sort of like external rewards versus the intrinsic rewards for a job well done, and where's the balance between those?
Sure. So the reward system works. It's worked for generations. It works for some people and others it doesn't. But I think it's important to have those rewards be smaller in nature, and along your journey of your timeline, have them incrementally. And so, for instance, some of the top 2 New Year's resolutions are to lose weight and reduce your stress, meditation and whatnot. So say you choose your goal to be that you're going to lose weight. That is too broad. You have to simplify it even more. So say you choose, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to lose 10 pounds within the first 6 months of the year, and I'm going to reach that by walking 3 times a week. And then along the way, I'm going to set those rewards for myself. And maybe it has to do with a new pair of walking shoes that you're gonna purchase for yourself, or a new workout outfit that you've been, put in your shopping cart, just sitting there waiting for you, saving for, or something around even personal time, self-care time, whether it's receiving that self-care around muscular therapy, massage therapy, or pedicure, manicure, or even just time away to allow opportunity for self-growth. And being able to place those within your goal setting, it's going to keep you motivated to keep moving. But I find that most people do better with the people around them supporting them and motivating them instead of those extrinsic items. They only go so far.
So if I just thank my kids for keeping the house neat, then I don't have to buy them things too.
Yes. The unconditional love will go so much farther, I feel like, than the physical monetary things. We often overindulge in those things because we think that that's what's motivating them, but really it comes down to that quality time spent with our kids too is huge, being present with them. Just thinking off the cuff here with social media too, and phones and all that kind of stuff, like kids are just so addicted to devices. So maybe that is something that you can use as a goal too. If you keep your room clean, you can get more screen time. So it's something to think about. But those little pockets of rewards are important, but it's so much more important for that positive reinforcement. The verbal is so important.
Or maybe there's kind of an in-between ground of just doing something with them that is appealing to them. Okay, I don't like to go to X place, but I know my kids love it. So if you do this for a certain number of weeks for me, we'll go there.
Absolutely. That quality time spent with them, what they enjoy doing.
Great. So with that, I think we will turn to a short break right now. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation.
IHT is a structured, strength-based, collaborative, therapeutic relationship between a clinical team and a youth and his or her family for the purpose of treating the youth's behavioral health needs in a manner consistent with wraparound principles. This service is appropriate when outpatient counseling is not able to meet the needs of the child and family. The Behavioral Health Center is one of FSA's long-standing programs, speaking to the organization's reputation for providing high-quality outpatient mental health services in a respectful, responsive, and effective manner. The BHC has been licensed by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health since 1985 and has continually provided services from the same location.
Welcome back to Family Focus. I'm Christina O'Reilly, your host, and with me is Angie Braz, the training coordinator for Family Service Association, and we're talking today about both wellness and about goal setting and kind of incremental change, setting yourself realistic goals, and taking yourself maybe not so seriously heading right into the new year, but thinking about when and how you're going to set and achieve those goals. So I did want to talk about, this is obviously a realistic expectation that there's going to be some slippage sometimes in a goal. So you might set yourself, something that you really want to achieve in a certain amount of time, and maybe you're approaching that time period and it's not realistic to finish it by then. So do you throw the whole thing out? Do you recalibrate your goals? How do you approach those sort of slippages to not get discouraged?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people do not, unfortunately, follow through with their New Year's resolution. That's why I say create those goals that are achievable and attainable. If you feel like you're falling off the wagon, do not throw it all out. Don't quit. Pick yourself back up and reassess. Reassess what those barriers are. Maybe the barrier is time, right? I don't have any time. I can't fit it into my schedule for physical activity. Or maybe the barrier is money, right? Being able to successfully meet your goals, you have some financial stuff you have to work through. So being able to address the awareness around those barriers, I think will better help set you up for success. But definitely don't quit. Absolutely not. Just get back on the bike and just reassess the seat, reposition it, and keep going. Because if anything, you're going to learn from it, right? Mm-hmm. I always say to myself, the only person you're in competition with is yourself. Where was I 5 months ago? Where was I 3 weeks ago? Where do I want to grow from there? Do I want to grow in financial wellness? Do I want to grow in my own professional life, professional development? Do I want to grow in my own physical activity? Am I healthier than I was 3 weeks ago? And if I wasn't, how do I get to that higher level of wellness? And maybe that's reducing the stress in my life. Okay, I need to be more strict with my phone usage. I need to be more strict with my time, being more purposeful with my time, especially again with our children, being more purposeful with our children and the time that we have with them, especially if you have young kids like myself. And so it's so important to be purposeful with our time and build off of your own goals and your own self-awareness on where you want to be. You should be your only level of competition. Where do I want to be in 6 months, 5 days, 5 weeks, and what have you.
Great. Yes, that's so true. And also speaking as a parent, it's the time flies. You realize my kids are 8 and 10 at this moment, and I look sometimes at how did that happen so fast? I'm going to have a middle schooler next year. I don't know where that went. So I'm sort of prompted to look back at our previous episode was talking about holiday stressors and mitigating, coping with those sorts of things. And so, you and I touched a little bit on maybe New Year's Day itself isn't the best time to launch into a new campaign for yourself. So let's talk a little bit about just kind of like self-care, resetting, maybe set yourself a good baseline before you start to launch into something brand new. So you've just come out of this really stressy period of the holidays. And so how do you, get back to basics there?
Sure. So I think we tend to we're very tough on ourselves come right after the holidays, and we feel like we have to set these very high goals. Articles and research has shown that you actually want to prepare in December for a New Year's resolution and start kind of practicing. But that being said, I encourage everyone throughout the whole year to set goals or set a goal. I would not encourage them to set a goal for the whole entire year. I would try to set it up smaller goals within smaller time frames. But going back to what you were saying around the self-care piece, it's important to recharge after the holidays, because the holidays, depending on what you celebrate, can be very challenging on our mind, our body, our spirit. And I think that we tend to overindulge in the holidays, whether it's food and alcohol. But we also are with family members and friends, some of which we choose to be with and some that we don't. So it's important to protect yourself and also allow yourself those healthy boundaries. And then after we go, we get through the holidays, and hopefully we stuck with a budget that worked for us and our family, we are able to start the new year off a bit more cleansed and ready to go. But again, I don't recommend starting off that goal like, January 2nd. That, I think you should give yourself some grace period, and then say, okay, I'm gonna, focus on the SMART goal that I wrote down for myself, and I'll start, say, January 9th or what have you. Do what works for you in your schedule. There could be other items in your life that are going to challenge that goal, things that are unplanned that you have to be mindful of.
Yeah. I liked the example that you used of, say if you want to improve your time management, setting that initial goal, just that goal can simply be to listen to that podcast so that you're taking in the information. You don't have to become a time management superstar after 30 days or 60 days, but just getting more information, more tools in your toolbox for you to work with can be so important. Just
absolutely
those tiny incremental things. I'm also thinking of, many of us sort of like we set out with this big robust idea of multiple goals that, I want to lose weight and tighten up my budget and, save money to take this trip over the summer. Maybe a family goal too, like, we need to get our house in order. And let's talk a little bit about overwhelm. When you kind of set yourself up with so many things there that it's hard to keep your focus attuned to one thing.
Absolutely. So one of the New Year's resolutions that's huge is decluttering, right? Decluttering our lives, going through a lot of the stuff that we own and just donate it. If we tend to pick too many goals, your success rate will be 0. So it's important to pick that one goal and focus on that. As hard as that can be, I think you're more likely to succeed in your goal and reaching your goal than packing on so much. And you're also less likely to get distracted, I feel like. If you find, though, along the way that there are more things that you want to achieve, journaling is huge. Journaling is so therapeutic. It's so helpful to journal things that are on your mind, because then it puts your thoughts to paper, and then it sort of lives in that journal, and it no longer can sort of, fulfill your brain so much that you're at capacity. So being able to write down those meaningful goals that you want to do, but being able to decipher which one's the most important one right now and what's achievable, so that you don't get overwhelmed. Because you just end up setting yourself up for failure. And I think, again, going back to just time management, but also purposeful use of our time, and we tend to get distracted a lot, especially with our phones and social media. And then we see things on social media and we're like, well, that person was able to do that. And it's really only 30% of the story.
Right.
And I think that can be a huge distraction on the goals that we choose for ourselves. And we have to be very mindful of that and just kind kind of shut off the social media because it's can tend to be more of a negative than a positive.
Yeah.
So.
Or even some of the TV shows. You know, I look around my house after watching HGTV, and I'm like, I want to redo it all. You know?
That's a good point.
And you know that they've had a crew of professionals in there for the 6 weeks that it took them to flip that house.
Absolutely.
You know, getting to paint one room, I think, is a nice chunk that, that should be attainable.
Exactly. And it is. And you think about, too, the other piece of it is like the financial piece. Like our financial wellness should be at the forefront of a lot of our behavior change and our budgeting, because although it's on sale, can you really afford, if you don't have the money to buy it, it's not on sale. You know, if you don't have the money to paint that room, don't do it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, breaking up these larger projects into smaller tasks are a lot more achievable if we break them up into smaller ones. And setting that date, that time limit is huge. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you hope to paint that room by the end of the summer or something of that nature, and being able to meet that, mm-hmm. it's more realistic that way.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Is there any sort of closing thoughts you'd like to add?
I just hope everyone has a beautiful, happy, healthy new year. Don't beat yourself up. If there's anything I can speak to, it's the fact that what we say to ourselves day in and day out is so important. And I'm all for positive affirmations. Mm-hmm. So pick a positive affirmation for yourself as a New Year's resolution goal, and just stick to it. Tell yourself that you're gonna, when you hear that negative self-talk, you're gonna say to yourself, what's my positive affirmation? You know, I can do this, or focus on the positive. Those are positive affirmations that will help you. And it's just one small piece of the puzzle of wellness that will help you through the new year. So I hope that people say positive things to themselves and they stay healthy into the new year.
Great. Thank you, Angie, for being here today. And thank you to our viewers. I do as well wish you a happy, healthy new year. Hope that you all enjoyed a wonderful, healthy, and safe holiday season. And we will see you again in February. Thank you.